Welcome one, welcome all to the Peak Performance Leadership Podcast, a weekly podcast series dedicated to helping you hit peak performance across the three domains of leadership. Those being leading yourself, leading your team, and leading your organization. This podcast couples my 20 years of military experience as a senior Canadian Army officer with world-class guests to bring you the most complete podcast of leadership going. And for more, feel free to check out our website at movingforwardleadership.com. And with that, let's get to the show. If you find yourself asking and pondering the question, how do I protect and sharpen my judgment under sustained pressure so I keep perspective and make better decisions without burning out myself or my team, then you're in good company. Because so many of us leaders out there ask ourselves that exact question on a regular basis. Things are just so fast this day and age. There is so much demands on us as leaders. The revolution of AI is just speeding up the pace, and with it goes the pace of decision making. And simply put, we're burning out, and with it, so is our teams. And it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Now, before I dive into answering that question for you or helping you ponder the answer for yourself and what's going to work for you, I do got a couple of announcements. Yes, it is your Chief Leadership Officer, Scott McCarthy. And thanks for tuning in, first off. Now, here's the other announcements. I am excited, proud, just, as we say back home, stoked to announce that my book, my first real published book, You Don't Know About Leadership, and Neither Do I, is a month away from release. If you're listening to this real time at the end of January 2026. It is just a month, not even a month away. Set to be released on 25 February 2026. This book is going to give you a complete and fresh perspective on what it means to be a leader, how to lead, and most importantly, how to be effective. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is not a self-appointed hero book per se, and the reality is I don't talk about good things about what I've done in the past, but the reality is I talk about the things that how I've screwed up and how I've messed up and the mistakes I've made. Yet you get the experience and wisdom out of the close to 300 guests we've had here on the show over the years. So if you're ready to grab a copy, you can actually pre-order autographed copies for them directly from me. If you go to leaddon'tboss.com/buy, as in B-U-Y, as in buy the book, you will go ahead and you'll be able to pre-order your own copy, which will get shipped from me to you personally, autographed with a message. Or you can buy it for a friend and I will send it to them and make it out to them as well. So again, jump on this deal. It is here for you. Go to leaddon'tboss.com/buy and grab your pre-order copy of my book, You Don't Know About Leadership, and Neither Do I. Coming soon, everywhere. All right, so with further ado, let's dive into today's topic and today's episode, and that is the leadership muscle that atrophies first under stress. And like I said, we're currently, the reality is for you, for me, for all the leaders out there, we're currently navigating relentless inputs, whether that is emails, Slack messages, team messages, text messages, face-to-face conversations, video calls, conferences. There are constant, relentless inputs from the data of our computer systems, and now AI on top of that, shifting priorities and targets that just simply won't wait for clean calendars. The pace is slowing, and the reality is today it's actually easy to confuse activity with effectiveness and urgency with importance. So, fast pace, constant inputs, compressed timelines, and when timelines compress, we as leaders, we don't become reckless, we become absorbed. Our attention funnels towards what's the loudest, not necessarily what's the most consequential or what's the most important. When our inbox never empties, our best thinking gets crowded out by that next ping. Okay? So the reality is that most of us high performers will push through almost anything. And endurance is a strength until it turns into, though, tunnel vision. And we all know tunnel vision, ladies and gentlemen, is a killer. It will take you out. It will take out your team. And most importantly, and most of us leaders, we often won't admit that under sustained pressure, our perspective shrinks before our performance drops. Okay? This isn't about just motivation or burnout, or this isn't just a motivational deficit. Many of us are disciplined, committed, and still effective under pressure until our decision-making quality subtly degrades. And that's what we're getting at today. And that's the muscle that atrophies when we go under stress. It is that decision-making. So let's talk about why that happens and what stress actually does to us leaders. Stress doesn't actually make us careless. Most of us, actually, if you're listening to this show, you include it, obviously, you care deeply. It's not the issue. Cognition is. Stress alters what you notice and how you process it. So stress narrows our field of view, and while we're under a load, we prioritize the immediate and the visible. Peripheral data, such as dissenting opinions, weak signals from the team, and longer-term risks generally get filtered out. And this becomes a risk in itself, because what it does is it shortens time horizons, and therefore short cycles dominate. We start asking questions like, what needs to move just today? By simply, what do we need to achieve to be positioned correctly 6 months from now? You see, strategy loses oxygen to activity. And research on execution gaps show that most organizations fall short on strategic results. In prolonged stress, that gap widens as near-term firefighting crowds out long-term positioning. And now, if you've listened to the show for a long time, you will no doubtly hear me talked about already that us as leaders, we need to be thinking long-term. We cannot be just doing the short-term vision. We need to be looking at the long term. So, what happens? We create this false sense of urgency. Everything starts carrying that now stamp. Now. And we start making the mistake that speed of decision for quality of a decision. Confusing motion with traction. Okay? Just doing things isn't good enough. I ask my team on a regular basis, yes, we are doing amazing work. Absolutely love it. But are we doing the right things? And that's because stress changes how decisions are made, not how much you as a leader care. So let's talk about why judgment actually goes and what it is. Judgment is about weighing trade-offs, balancing financial, team, customer balance sheets at the same time, and you're never really over-optimizing one at the expense of the other. You're seeing second and third order effects. You're anticipating how today's win could become tomorrow's problem, and you know when to push versus pause. Distinguishing that false sense of urgency from true inflection points. But why is judgment fragile under sustained pressure? See, constant load creates cognitive crowding. Your head just gets crowded. You ever feel like, oh God, I just need a moment. I can't think here. That's what's happening. You need space to compare options. You need to be able to challenge assumptions. You need to test risks. And you need to be able to basically look at what's familiar rather than what's fit for the situation. And you might be asking yourself, how is cognitive load and identity a threat to degrade decision quality? Well, when your identity is tied to being the person who always delivers, pressure to maintain that image makes you less likely to seek dissenting input, i.e. challenging input. Remember that psychological safety is super important. You're putting that off to the side, and you react to protect competence signals instead of updating your view as new data comes in. Remember I said, you make a decision now and you can carry on with that, but once you receive new information about that situation, you now have a new decision to make. That is that new data. Judgment is a muscle, and like any other muscle, it atrophies when it's constantly overworked and never recovered. So basically, what I'm saying is we need time to recover. We need time to hit that relief valve. So how does this show up day to day? AKA, what are the warning signs that you should go, maybe I'm not taking time here to enable my judgment muscle to relax, recover, and then come back and start making some better decisions. One of the first ones is your decisions get faster, but worse. You feel decisive, yet the amount of reoccurring work increases. Teams cycle through corrections. Those quick wins stall deeper and deeper, as you progress through. You, as a leader, tend to default to familiar patterns instead of situational thinking. Those past playbooks override the present context. Familiarity feels safe, fit for purpose, thinking drops. You basically fall back to where you feel comfortable. Short-term fixes replace long-term positioning. We had talked about this. You meet the metrics, but you miss the movement. And activity goes up while advantage goes down. You stop asking questions and you start issuing directives. Psychological safety erodes. People tell you what you want to hear versus what you need to hear, And you get fewer and fewer edge cases and more yeses. So less people challenge you and more people simply just agree with you. And then teams sense hesitation or inconsistent behavior. Favorites, avoidance, tough calls emerge, and execution slows even as urgency arises. These are all warning signs. And if you hear some of these things and you go, oh my God, I hear these, that means your judgment muscle needs a break. So why are our smart, experienced leaders most at risk? So if you're smart, which you are because you're listening to this show, you're no doubtly experienced, you are actually most at risk. Because we're used to, as high performance, used to pushing through grit and going through the pain. Recovery and reflection, we frame it as nice to haves, not must to haves. Our past successes also reinforce endurance over awareness. Like, it worked before, vice asking, is this going to work now, though? The more you've won in the past, the more tempting it is to repeat rather than adapt. We, as high-performing leaders, also mistake resilience for sustainability. Sure, you can endure a sprint, but you can't live in one. You can't sprint a marathon, We confuse the stamina for strategy, and judgment is what pays the price. And then finally, experience can become a liability. Yes, it can become a liability when our reflection disappears without deliberate learning loops. We need to take that time to reflect and go over what it is we've done, we've achieved, what we learned from it, and those mistakes we made. These things take time. And who pays the price? Our teams pay the price. Because confusion without obvious direction causes chaos. Priorities will shift midstream. People will adapt, but cohesion frays. Why? Because everyone starts working on what they believe to be the main priority is. What should be the priority. Execution slows down despite the fact everything is urgent. But when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. And basically what ends up happening is decisions boomerang back for clarification. Quiet disengagement. People stop offering hard truths. They give you effort, but not their full intelligence. This is where quiet quitting starts coming into play. And you as a leader become the bottleneck without realizing it. Decisions concentrate at the top because psychological safety and delegation fails. Decision fatigue grows because you have so much more on your plate and further degrades your ability to make judged decisions properly. And with that, trust erodes, team confidence and leadership doesn't necessarily crash, but it definitely drips away through small inconsistencies and missed chances to listen. These are all the effects and warning signs, ladies and gentlemen, that you're simply running under pressure and your judgment is affected. So how do we rebuild it? And most importantly, how do we rebuild it under pressure? Right? Because this pressure isn't going to go away. This isn't about doing less. It's about doing the right things with the right cadence. Right? Remember what I said? Are we doing the right things? So are you making the right decisions? What decisions do you actually have to do and make? Right? Create a decision recovery space where you protect reoccurring reflection windows. You know what? Even 20 minutes in your day of undisturbed thinking will actually outperform ad hoc when I can reflection time. Make it sacred time. Block it out on your calendar. Close your door. Turn off your Teams. Shut down your phone. Whatever. Just make it sacred time for you to be able to sit there and reflect on the decisions that you've made or the ones that you have upcoming, or simply calm the noise. Separate urgency from importance. I love the Eisenhower Matrix of either do now, schedule it, delegate it, or delete it. And that's based off urgency and importance. Check it out. It is phenomenal. Install pauses, not escapes. Use micro pauses in your workflow. Do pre-mortems before big calls, Basically, just taking 5 minutes before you jump on a big call. Making those pauses will actually enable your judgment, voice avoiding it. Use trusted challenge instead of isolation. Build a small truth-telling circle of people who have your permission to push back. In the military, we call this red team. You want people to red team your calls. Ask them what you need to hear. Tell them they have to tell you what you need to hear and not what they think you want to hear. Okay? And then align big decisions with your peak cognitive window schedule. All right? I love the book, The Power of When by Dr. Brous. It is phenomenal. You should check it out. I have actually aligned my decision-making schedule based on my chronotype and when I am at my peak for doing that, which is mid-mornings. Okay? For you, could be a bit different, but check it out. And that's just a little practical tip that you can do. And another practical tip is just a quick self-check for you right here. As I go through these questions, answer them to yourself and answer honestly. Okay? How often am I reacting vice being proactive? Again, how often am I reacting vice being proactive? Am I solving symptoms or am I solving root problems? When was the last time I changed my mind after new information was introduced? Again, when was the last time I changed my mind after new information was introduced? Are decisions getting easier or just faster? Are they getting easier or are they getting faster? Where am I the bottleneck right now? And what can I delegate immediately? So where am I the bottleneck? And what can I delegate? And finally, who's in my truth-telling circle? And when did I last ask them to challenge me? Okay? Who's in my truth-telling circle? And when did I last ask them to challenge me? Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a tough world. It is dog eat dog out there. As a leader, there is a lot on your shoulders. There is a lot of pressure, and we all feel it from time to time. This is completely normal. But it's all about protecting your judgment because your team needs your best thinking, not just your best effort, okay? We, the leaders, we don't eliminate stress because that's impossible, but we prevent stress from silently reshaping who we become as leaders. We do that by maintaining perspective, protecting reflection, and inviting challenge. So with that, I challenge you to reflect now. Reflect on how you're doing as a leader. Reflect on how well do you think your judgment is actually doing and how much load do you have on. And with that, I leave you, I bid you good day. Most importantly, as always, lead, don't boss. Take care now. And that's a wrap for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the Peak Performance Leadership Podcast. But you know what you could do to truly support the podcast? And no, that's not leaving a rating and review. It's simply helping a friend. And that is helping a friend by sharing this episode with them if you think this would resonate with them and help them elevate their performance level, whether that's within themselves, their teams, or their organization. So do that. Help me, help a friend, win-win all around. And hey, you look like a great friend at the same time. So just hit that little share button on your app and then feel free to fire this episode to anyone that you feel would benefit from it. Finally, there's always more. There's always more lessons around being the highest performing leader that you can possibly be, whether that's for yourself, your team, or your organization. So why don't you subscribe? Subscribe to the show via movingforwardleadership.com/subscribe. And until next time, lead, don't boss, and thanks for coming out. Take care now.